Welcome. I am very excited to share this information today and to share this space with you. Thank you for joining me. You know me. I'm Maria Christina Owl. And I was very inspired to offer this day, this webinar, because I just had an amazing visit with two of my teachers, spiritual teachers of 25 years. And I haven't seen them in a long time. And it made all of my training and my experiences with them rise to the surface. And I just spontaneously created this space because it's very relevant information for today and these times. So that said, let's start with some arriving breaths. Simply feel your body. You can place a hand on your heart or on your belly. Notice your breath. Bring your awareness down low to the ground and simply feel your energy and your consciousness arriving, settling, deepening. Take another breath and expand your ribs and let your heart expand within your body. Exhale and feel the pouring up and down of your heart frequency. Up your spine, down your spine, into your head, down into your feet and sacrum. Another deep breath, relaxing and surrendering into this moment, allowing everything that has come before this moment to just be put aside for now. Relaxing and surrendering and saying yes to being fully aware, awake, and present right now. Thank you for choosing to spend this time with me exploring the present moment. As many of you know, I wrote a book recently called Planetary Ascension. And when I reconnected with my spiritual teachers and we talked a lot of story about our times together in the past, I realized that my whole adult life training with them was preparing me for writing this book because it really was about personal ascension. And to me, personally, I define personal ascension as meaning being awake in the present moment. The more awake we are in presence, the more we're able to perceive reality for what it really is, clearly. And then we have access to infinite possibility and creativity and universal wisdom. Whereas the less we are in the present moment, and the more we are living from past patterning, stories, beliefs, or anxiety about the future and what ifs, then we are kind of like our life force is then caught up and not available to us. It is caught up in the past, caught up in the future, and you're not really living a full life. When you live in the past and the future, and I'm not talking about the past meaning lovely memories, because that's okay. That's all nice. I'm talking about attachments to the past, blame, shame, guilt, resentments, feeling incomplete grief, incomplete betrayals, cycles, relationships. So we're attached, we're caught up, we're frozen in the past. It robs us of our life force energy to be used in the present moment for our highest health and vitality. We are not looking for the open doors and opportunities of this moment. We are only looking at stagnant, frozen images of the past that just loop in their little memes. So that's how I define the personal ascension. Personal ascension is moving more and more and more into living fully in the present moment. So I want to invite you to have this experience with me of the teachings of Nakaima. Nakaima is a Japanese word. It means inside of now, or here inside of now. The term Nakaima came from my teacher Jamie, from the Kododama texts that are pre-Shinto Japanese wisdom. The Kododama teaches about how to live free, sovereign in the present moment. So that's where we're going to dive into right now. When I first experienced Nakaima, I was in my mid-20s, and I signed up for a permaculture course, 7-week course in Oregon at a intentional community. It was a farm, and it was a conference center. And the training was permaculture certification and personal growth. And I really liked that combination. So I signed up. We did a lot of the permaculture. And then came the personal growth part. They didn't tell us. They didn't prepare us. They told us zero about what this was going to entail. I found myself walking into a course room with all the other interns and people I didn't know as well. I saw a lot of the facilitators were dressed very beautifully in this nice clothes, and we all gathered and they were assisting. And then the students were kind of all in chairs in the middle of the room facing a stage. My teachers got up in front of the room and they started introducing this concept of Nakaima. They started sharing about the nature of attachments and aversions, which is a very Buddhist thing. Many of you have heard it. They started teaching about how we avoid sovereignty and freedom, where attachments come from, how they're born in us, and how to break free into the present moment and choose to perceive reality clearly and really engage with life and with others honestly. They taught about the practice of honesty, and they also taught us a form of release breathing to help us let go of our attachments and pop into the present moment. The 3-day retreat or workshop was very dynamic very intensive, and very confronting. The first half of the day, we had an opportunity to stand one by one, go up onto that stage at the front of the room and stand in front of the whole audience and be witnessed by everybody, the assistants, the other students, and the teachers. From the platform, the instructions were to have your arms down at your sides without moving, and to always have eye contact with somebody in the room at all times, and to keep breathing. Those are the 3 instructions. Number 1, I had never been on stage before in my life. Number 2, I had never experienced raw cathartic emotion in my whole life. Never. At 25 years old. And so when it was my turn to get up onto that platform, I can tell you my heart was beating so hard. I think I probably broke a sweat. I was terrified, nervous, but exhilarated and excited as well. I really wanted this transformation. I really wanted to change. By that point, at age 25, I had been on a spiritual path my whole life already, born into Christianity and moved into indigenous wisdom. I'd been to South Dakota many times, learning from the Lakota people, doing sweat lodges, Sundance, Vision Quest. So very deep work and self-work wasn't foreign to me. I was moving towards it willingly since I was probably 18. Yet, going through a Western style of group process based on Eastern philosophy, this was brand new to me. So by the time I got in front of everybody on that platform, I was surprised when the very first thing that happened for me was this massive scream issued forth from my body, just scream. I'd never screamed in my life like that. I'd never even heard myself scream before. And when it came out, the teacher sitting down the aisle, right, was looking at me with a calm face, just simply said, "Keep going." So I did. I kept screaming. After a while, I felt the need to scream had come to completion, and that teacher was looking at me and simply asked the question, "What are you wanting or not wanting in this moment?" The second half of the day is what's called Triad Work. So all the students would get together in groups of 3, and we would take the work of the platforms deeper. Whatever came up for you on the platform, you take it deeper, and you would use the tools, the breathing, you would use the identifying attachments and looking at your attachments deeper. It was also an opportunity for people to just pull out their authentic wanting to contribute to each other. So you could role play, you could beat pillows, you could have a catharsis, or you can simply meditate. Some people just lay down in the arms of their triad members and were held and sung to because that's what they most needed to break through. The third day of Nakaima was dedicated to looking at the nature of attachments and the spectrum of consciousness. So we were looking at the qualities of an attached consciousness. And my teachers talked about these 2 main forms of attachment. Not attachment, but there was wounded consciousness and denial consciousness. And almost everybody, you can have both, but usually there's a predominant consciousness that blocks us. We're either in denial, saying, "I'm not," or we're in wounding, saying you're not. So that was the third day. Needless to say, you can assume that after I had that first experience, I did it again and again and again, and then became an assistant on the assisting team. And eventually I invited my teachers to, well, actually, I moved to Canada with them where they had a retreat center, and I lived there for a year training with them. And then years later, I was living in California, and I invited my teacher, my specific teacher, who was really my right, I was under her wing for most of my training, Deborah. I invited her to stay with me. And whenever she came to California, we would produce a Nakaima and offer them. And we were offering about 5 a year, 4 to 5 a year. In 2005, I went to graduate school and I produced my final Nakaima, and I started to assist whenever I could. And there came a day where I asked Deborah, I feel ready to teach these on my own. And she said, wonderful, just change the name. Use your own name. So I chose a name, I called it the Human Being Experience. And I would offer it to my students who went into my 9-month program. So clearly this work has been fundamental in my life. It's become second nature. It's a part of me. And I'm going to share it with you now and invite you to have your own experience of it. So I'm going to offer you 4 tools, actually probably 5. The first tool is identifying attachments and aversions. So in Buddhism, the nature of suffering is attachments or desires, aversions or rejecting what we push away, confusion, and what's the 4th one? You're probably all saying it right now. Ignorance. So we're gonna work with attachments and aversions specifically. How do you know when you're attached? Sometimes you hear the word regressed. When somebody is in regress, they're coming from a younger place in themselves. That is a state of attachment. You also know you're attached when you're having an uncomfortable experience. So when you're having a contraction, you're holding your breath, your temperature is shifting, you get cold or you start sweating, butterflies in the stomach, uncomfortable sensations or overwhelming sensations. Contracted emotions, you begin to feel those contracted states of panic, anxiety. You can feel overwhelming grief or hatred, blame, jealousy, envy. So these are all states of attachment. As well, your thought process regresses. So you're in negative thoughts, maybe confused thoughts or ignorance. Once you identify that you're attached, which is simply by tracking sensation, emotion, thought process, then you can ask yourself that golden question. What am I grasping for or avoiding in this moment? I'm having an uncomfortable experience. What am I grasping for or avoiding right now? Often when this question is asked, people immediately go to a surface, like what is an immediate symptom you're having? So, for example, when people would get up onto the platform and they'd be asked, like, what are you experiencing? What are you grasping for or avoiding? Oh, well, I want you guys to like me. I want to do this right. Sometimes with my clients, I'll ask them the question. They'll bring a situation in their life that they're having. Well, what are you wanting or not wanting? Well, I'm just wanting this to be over with. I want to feel better. So these are at the surface. And then there's an opportunity to spiral deeper and deeper and deeper to get to the heart of it. If you keep going deeper, what you're going to find is this very common, shared across humanity, core attachments. Grasping for acceptance, approval, to be chosen, to be considered, avoiding or pushing away, being ostracized, disapproved of, rejection, or being found expendable. As well, grasping for safety, grasping to be a star, grasping for meaning, or to be perfect. Avoiding being hurt, being a nobody, meaninglessness, or being seen as damaged. And once we can identify, so you're on the platform and you're saying, I just want to do this right. Are you wanting to be perfect? Yes, I should be able to do this perfectly and get your acceptance and approval so I can feel safe, right? So that just spiraled all the way down into that core wanting to be safe attachment. Deborah and my other teacher, Larry, would teach that at the core, at the root, we'll say the root of all attachments are two core attachments, two main attachments: wanting love and wanting control. All attachments stem from these two core attachments: wanting love or wanting control. And you could say that the core attachment of everything is wanting love. At the bottom of it all. So how do attachments form? As I described earlier, under all of the surface attachments are the core attachments. But how do the core attachments form? So these attachments form when we are very young, with the original misalignments, abandonments, and betrayals that happen with our primary caregivers, usually unconsciously, sometimes consciously. These form from early experiences of getting hurt, and then we create our beliefs about who we are in the world, what the world is, and what is dangerous to our survival. How do we survive, right? We create our survival mechanisms at a very young age. We create our survival mechanisms in an inherent, or not inherent, but constructed in those are these erroneous beliefs about the world and who we are and who others are in the world. As an adult, we move towards what is familiar to us, even if it's not healthy for us. We move towards what's familiar. It is usually an unconscious thing. We move towards the energetics that we're familiar with, patternings we're familiar with. And that is a drive for healing. It's always a drive for more life and more wholeness by the soul. We enter into environments that have a similar nervous system response in us as our original wounding, and we're trying to have completion of those events, those original events. We're trying to find completion, forgiveness, and come into a rebirth of ourselves, a transformation. We're seeking transformation. Sometimes we succeed, and sometimes we end up re-traumatizing ourselves and not succeeding. And when we have the re-traumatization, those original betrayals and density patterns, it's like a scar that gets rescarred and rescarred. So the scar tissue gets thicker. The pattern gets more ingrained for survival. So we could call this density patterns going forward. Density patterns are a complex interweaving of our erroneous beliefs with feelings, and also somatic memory is included in that too. So as adults, we perceive reality. We move into our adulthood, and we're moving through our world with these, you could say, veils of protection. We believe they're protecting us, called density patterns around us. Some people have a thicker guard around their heart, and some people have a lighter experience of density patterns. They're lighter. When you engage in the practice of honesty and become more fully present in your life, you begin to have experiences outside of the old and the familiar. You begin to create new networks and pathways in your brain. You begin to perceive the doors that are opening in the present moment, opportunities for transformation. And you begin to move towards those with a yes, a desire to be lighter, to be free, to change. My teacher said, Larry would say during the Nakaimas, he would say, every movement towards freedom is an unnatural movement. And it's actually a poem by Adrienne Rich. And this speaks to how habitualized in the amygdala of our brain, we carry the original habits and phobias and fears. And these take concentrated intentioning to rewire into positive, life-affirming new patterns of healthy patterns for your life, right? So every movement towards liberation, freedom from attachments, feels like an unnatural movement because we're pushing through what has been habitualized and has become very familiar and comfortable to us. He also used to say, until your desire for freedom becomes stronger than your, you could say, addiction to your attachments, you won't move towards freedom. Until your desire for freedom becomes stronger than the comfort you receive from your attachments, you won't choose freedom. You can see how this work, Nakaima, choosing to live inside of now, these teachings are very potent and very poignant for these times we live in. Perhaps humanity in this moment is coming to that precipice of choosing freedom, where there's comes a moment where you either transform or you feel like you're going to die. So I'm going to share a story about my mother. And this is a moment of my mother's life that she relayed to me. And I carry it on the altar in my heart and use this experience of hers to continue catalyzing me towards even more intentional, purposeful choosing change, choosing freedom, choosing bliss, choosing joy every moment. When my parents had been married about 36 years, my father was a severe alcoholic, and this was the moment where their marriage ended, shattered. It was an event in two stages, and it was the event that ended with my father's arrest. The first week, my father came home very drunk and abused my mother severely. The next week, he came home in the same condition, and she saw in his eyes that he intended to abuse her. And she said in that moment she knew that if she did not take action, she would die that night. And instinct or some energy beyond her moved her to pick up a phone and dial 911. She immediately hung up the phone before she talked to anybody. But simply because she called, they sent the police and probably a fire truck to the house, and they arrested my father. So that event, her story, I wasn't there, but her story of it is on the altar in my sanctuary self, temple self, because it teaches me if 36 years of abuse is comfortable for some people, and it takes facing annihilation to finally launch you out of severe pain and into freedom. And then we look at humanity and we look at how many of us have been, in one way or another, engaging in density patterns culturally, engaging in traumatic patterns globally, with our governments, with whatever. What is it going to take for us to choose freedom? I hope it doesn't take such a severe catalyst. I hope we can learn from what people we know in our lives or our own pasts and begin to preemptively choose and willingly walk towards what is good for us, what is beautiful, and begin to heal the part of us that believes we perhaps deserve the abuse. So until your desire for freedom becomes stronger than your addiction to attachment, you will not be free. Let us desire and move towards freedom now. The practice of honesty is the tool number 2 I want to offer you. Honesty with yourself and others. So this was a muscle. Absolutely. And that's what they used to tell us. my teachers would tell the students, the practice of honesty, almost like it's natural for children. They just blurt it out. They blurt out, you know, what happened? Why are you limping? You know, and they just say exactly what they see. And so as adults, we get to reclaim this, um, yet with more compassion, perhaps. One thing that my teacher Larry asked me when I was doing that, you know, the second or third Nakaima I'd ever done, living up there in Oregon on the farm, after one of the courses, he said to me, Maria, you really hold yourself as fragile, but you're not fragile. You're very strong. And that just stopped me in my tracks. And it made me realize he was absolutely right. His contribution to me in that moment, in a neutral, like, I'm just going to show you the mirror right now. Here you go. And I had to really look at that. Why was I presenting a facade, a mask to others that I was fragile? Clearly, because of my core wounds, my core betrayals, my core attachment of wanting to be safe, wanting control, was running my life. It was running my life. It was managing my life. And I was managing all my relationships. If I was seen as fragile, then I could get out of responsibility for things. I could just step out of anything because it was too overwhelming for me, or what have you. I always had an excuse to bow out of responsibility. From that moment on, I began to explore how strong I was, and it changed my life. I changed. Honesty with myself changed me. Honesty with others. Deborah used to say, if you have an idea about somebody thinking something about you, rather than just walking around believing that story, walk up to them and ask them if it's true. And this was great. During the 3-day event, it was like this laboratory experiment. If you're having an idea, check it out. See if it's true. I have this idea that you think I'm this way or that way. Is that true? Do you see me that way? And then they'll say, no. Or, well, a little bit. So are you going to create an internal environment that pumps out certain neurotransmitters, that tells your liver to do this and your adrenals to excrete this, and cortisol, and all this stuff is happening in the planet ecosystem that you are, because you didn't have the wherewithal, I don't know, courage, idea to walk up to the person and just ask them to find out the truth. Is it more comfortable to tell ourselves stories? Because that allows us to stay in our attachments, what's familiar. It takes courage to break through the veils, to consciously choose to be free. It takes volition. Rather than having emotions dictated by your assumptions, explore and discover the truth as much as you can. I do this with my husband, Dwayne, all the time. I just think that, are you judging me right now? No. And I ask him, you know, whenever I have the thought, I ask him, and what he replies to me is feedback to my attachment density pattern looping. And eventually it proves an opposite story is actually happening to my internal core attachment story. And this has to eventually relax its hold and let go, because it's been proven wrong over and over and over again. And that couldn't have happened unless I continuously checked it out. So I want to invite you to take a breath. I'm going to be quiet for just a minute, take a sip of water, and I'm just going to let you feel what's happening in your body. Breathe and notice sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Witness yourself. Be willing to honestly perceive the truth about your state of being. Breathe. When you breathe, you are automatically moved into presence. When you consciously are taking a breath, you are in the present moment. You bring yourself into the present moment. From this moment, Deborah calls it, locate yourself in the present moment. What are your thoughts, sensations, emotions? You are locating yourself. Where am I? In the past? In the future? What am I grasping for or rejecting in this moment? Tool number 3 I want to offer you is letting go. How do we free ourselves from our attachments? Attachments are what create our suffering. Attachments, aversions, confusion, ignorance. That's what creates suffering. If we go in this Buddhist philosophy and in this Nakaima practice, letting go of attachments liberates us into the present moment. How do you let go? When we let go of an attachment, what are we letting go of? What is the attachment? So if I say, oh, I'm recognizing that I'm wanting safety. I'm grasping for safety. I don't feel safe and I'm grasping to be safe. Okay, breathe and let go of wanting to be safe. It sounds a little bit like confrontational. What do you mean? Let go of wanting to be safe. Of course I want to feel safe if I don't feel safe. But the key is to recognize that it is our grasping energy at safety that keeps us from feeling, embodying a sense of safety. As long as we are in the grasping or pushing away, that's the attachment. The grasping, rejecting, pushing away. That's the attachment. If you recognize you're wanting love, it may seem unnatural to let go of wanting love. Yet it's not love that you're letting go of. You're letting go of the grasping for love. That's where the stickiness of the attachment lies. In this moment, can you let go of wanting to be safe? Just for a moment, can you breathe and let go? Letting go is a choice, not a process. Letting go is a choice, not a process. At this point, my teacher Larry would get up in front of the class with a rock, and he would just drop the rock and it would hit the ground. He made a choice to drop it. It wasn't a process. It was a choice. Once you understand what the attachment is, you can perceive your situation more clearly. I'm grasping for love. Therefore, my grasping is keeping me out of present moment, unable to really connect to somebody because I'm projecting my density patterns onto them, right? I'm creating a veil or a facade and I'm presenting that to that person. I'm grasping for their love. I'm presenting what I think they want me to be. I'm changing myself to avoid their rejection, to avoid the discomfort of feeling unlovable. Therefore, I am not in the present moment. I do not have access to infinite possibility. I am not perceiving reality clearly. I am not actually engaging with this other embodied soul in front of me. I'm unable to fully see who they really are. And while I remain attached and grasping or pushing away something, I will not be able to ever really know them or love them. I will not be able to fully feel that I am loved. The attachment creates the suffering. My teacher would say, every time you let go, it's like you're poking a hole in a membrane around you. And that membrane is the density patterns that have created like a survival shield around you to protect you, right? These ideas, erroneous beliefs of how to be safe, how to be protected. And every time you let go, it's like you're poking a hole in that, and light streams in. Reality, truth streams in. And then you let go again, and then you poke another hole. And then you practice honesty, and you let go again, and you poke another hole. And eventually, as you continue the practice of honesty, identifying your attachments and letting go in the moment and freeing yourself, you've poked so many holes, there's more light coming in than there are density patterns remaining. It's like building a muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable. But eventually, with consistency and commitment, you start to build the muscle, to get stronger. You get good at it. And letting go becomes second nature. Identifying your attachment. I'm holding my breath. What am I wanting or not wanting in this moment? Can I let go of grasping for blah-de-blah? Did I let go? Is there still a little bit left? Ah, I'm in the present moment. I've let go. It becomes like the practice. You become adept at the practice. You can let go and be free in a moment. So you just saw me doing an example of breathing. There are many ways to let go. How do you let go? There are many ways you can let go. Once you've identified what that attachment is, what it is, and you know you've landed on the attachment when it brings up a strong emotional response in you. Yeah. So I can say, like, I'm really triggered by the clutter. I'm just so annoyed by clutter. I feel like boxed in. I just need space. I need to get rid of things. Da, 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 da. I want other people to not have clutter. Right? Well, go a bit deeper. What are you wanting or not wanting? I'm wanting spaciousness. I'm wanting to feel space. I'm wanting to feel other people's stuff out of my space. Go deeper. What are you wanting or not wanting? I'm wanting to be able to breathe. I'm wanting to be able to sense myself without people grasping at me. I'm wanting go deeper. I'm wanting safety. I'm wanting control. Okay, you're wanting control. Now that I've identified the attachment, oftentimes that will bring up and elicit a vulnerability in me because I've landed on the original. There's a resonance of the original event that caused the wound, the hurt, the betrayal, right? In that density pattern. And so there's an emotion that can blossom forth when you really truly land on it. And when you can get really honest about it. And sometimes that is the key to letting go. If you've never allowed authentic emotion around those feelings, those authentic feelings and beliefs, then having a catharsis, or having just the sober witnessing of the truth, or releasing anger, especially witnessed by another loving, hopefully neutral party, being witnessed is profoundly healing. So sometimes feeling it, releasing the emotion, can just clear you, and you come into present time. You've released the attachment. You can now see the truth. You can see how you were behaving before, how you feel now, how you were grasping, and now you feel free. You can feel the difference, the contrast. Just naming and witnessing the attachment can sometimes just create the release of it. Breathing. A lot of breathing techniques. I'm going to teach you some in just a moment. Talking it out with someone you trust who can be neutral. Physical exertion, exercise, can also help to clear an attachment. Doing a ritual, ceremony, can clear attachments, can help you let go of the grasping. Receiving energy work, receiving help from somebody to clear your chakras, to identify the attachments, to let go on the energetic level, and then suddenly it releases on the emotional body. All of these are ways to help you let go and come into the present moment. You can discover your own way to let go. Vocalizing is huge benefit. Toning, chanting mantras, singing. All of that opens up the throat. The vibration of your voice through your whole body is so healing and can support you coming into present moment. And from the present awakened moment, you can then perceive your choices, how you've been, the choices you made, that what triggered you, what got you hooked, what do you need to change in your life to not be run by that attachment anymore? What needs to come to completion? And what can you move towards that can assist you with a real, healthy completion of that grief, of that trauma cycle, rather than being at effect and being thrown into situations, magnetically drawn to dysfunctional patterns, trying to complete? Instead, being at cause, preemptively, consciously, purposefully moving towards healthy environments, containers that are safe, that are balanced, that can help you come to completion with sacred witnessing, with ceremony, with respect, with honoring. So let's do some breathing. I'm going to teach you 2 breathing techniques. The first breath I'm going to teach you is a breath I learned from Deborah, Jamie, and Larry, my teachers, and Karin. And this is what they would have us do on the platform. So they would have us stand there, and you can do this anytime. When you identify your attachment, you are basically identifying an uncomfortable sensation. Okay, I'm having an uncomfortable experience. That means I'm attached. What am I wanting or not wanting in this moment? What am I grasping for or avoiding in this moment? I'm going to use my example, my core attachment. I'm wanting to be safe. I'm wanting to feel safe. I just want to feel safe. That's usually how it comes out. I just want to feel safe. Okay. In this moment, and this is how I talk to myself as they talk to me when I was on the platform. Okay, in this moment, can you let go of grasping for safety? And that was my cue to begin the breathing. So this is the release breathing they taught. The release breathing is a natural inhale, so it's not a huge, it's not like that. It's just a normal inhale, what you would normally do when you inhale. Yet a forced exhale out the mouth. So I'm going to start slow, and I'm going to get fast, and then I'm going to come back and do a slow breathing. So if you feel so moved, breathe along with Maria. If you want to, you can think about your attachment with the intention of letting go as you breathe. Okay? So again, you're going to feel it in your core, inhaling through the nose naturally with a forced pushing out of the exhale. Going faster. Even faster. So you can feel lightheaded. You might feel a little dizzy, spacey. You might feel tingly in your hands. When you do a lot of breathing in this style with a very strong, if you are releasing a very core attachment with a lot of emotion behind it, and you're doing the release breathing, it can elicit the release of the stuck, frozen emotion. The breathing might bring you into a release of tears, screaming, or wailing, or just moaning. It's very natural. It's because you're getting your chi moving, and it's clearing your pathways. It's clearing your channels. And because you're holding in mind the pain and the suffering that you're wanting to be free from, and your intention is to let go and liberate yourself, the energy you're moving is going to free you from that density pattern specifically with the breathing. Some people actually will go into the claw hands, lobster hands. I don't know. There's an actual medical term for it. It's when the oxygenation some people have like numbing of the mouth or the tingling around the jaw or claw hands, and that relaxes after a while. It's okay. It's because what you are clearing from your field is ready to go and is going. So let's do that one more time. I'll start slow. We'll go faster and we'll go slow down again. We'll bring it slow again. So in this moment, and I love how my teachers would say this, they would say, just for a moment, not forever, but can you choose just for a moment to let go of wanting love, of grasping for love, for grasping for approval, grasping for acceptance, grasping for to be right, to be perfect, right? Can you just for a moment, can you let go? You form the intention and that purpose strongly within yourself and then begin the breathing. I'm going to be quiet for a moment, and I want to just invite you to feel the sensation in your body. At this point, my teacher would say, did you let go? How do you know you've let go? You feel lighter, more spacious. Some people actually burst out in laughter. You feel expansive, emptiness, peace. These are all different experiences one can have when they let go. If you notice that you do feel different, yet your mind is still attached, and that's really where it's like the mental grasping. When your attachment is interesting to the mind, the monkey mind or the ego, the mind finds it so fascinating and interesting. The mind always feeds energy and attention to what is most interesting. And oftentimes it's the trauma. Oftentimes it's the drama. So if the mind is still finding the attachment more interesting than the liberation and the opportunity to go through that door and drop the attachment, you'll still feel the attachment. You'll still feel the density pattern or the clenching. And if you do, keep breathing. And that's what Deborah or Larry, they would say. They'd say, okay, keep breathing. And you keep breathing. How are you feeling now? Did you let go? Yes. How do you know? I just feel empty. I feel relaxed. Wonderful. Welcome home. Welcome to the present moment. This feeling of release is your new baseline. This is your new baseline. Whenever you let go and you can open into this experience of spaciousness and peace and joy, contentment, anchor yourself into that sensation. You anchor yourself into it by becoming a witness of it inside yourself, and then living from that place as you engage with others. If you can anchor yourself to that new experience, you normalize it. You give it energy. It becomes the most interesting thing to your mind, to your ego. It becomes so interesting, way more interesting than the suffering. Wow, if I breathe like this, I can create this state of expansiveness. Or if I allow my emotions to just move out authentically and then name and what I see and observe about myself and how I've been and who I am now, that's way more vulnerable and intimate and exciting than that frozen state of erroneous limiting storytelling I was doing for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, right? So the mind becomes engaged and on your side as an ally, directing energy to freedom, to the present moment, to your true nature, to your true self. Here is another breath. This one is so beautiful. I learned this recently from a man who works out of Manchester, England. His name is David Ian Rogers. He calls himself the Heyoka Shaman. You can look him up online. He's amazing. I've had 2 sessions with him. I very deeply appreciate him. And he taught me this breath. And it works in the same way as the release breathing from Nakaima and can be used with this work of releasing and liberating from attachments. This breath is, you inhale through the nose and you bring the breath like up as if you're washing your brain with it, into the brain. And as you inhale, it's not a lung breath. It's not a higher up breath. You're inhaling and pushing the diaphragm down. So you're stretching the diaphragm down with the inhale, but inhaling through the nose and bringing the breath up. So what is this doing? It's creating a stretch of your central channel. Up, and what I like to do is actually roll my eyes back and up too. And then I'm pushing the diaphragm down and feeling the pushing down into my pelvic cradle. So creating a stretch. And you hold the breath at the top of the breath, and you hold it for as long as you can. And then a little bit longer. And when you exhale out the nose. With a groan even. Right? So that's the basic of the breath. So let's begin. Imagine you're standing on the platform. It's so helpful. You're standing on the platform. Your arms are down at your side. You're in eye contact with somebody at all times. Imagine that your friends who love you are there. You link eyes with somebody. And as you're present, it keeps you in presence. That's what the eye contact's for. Keeps you present. You're choosing to be present. And so now, identify your attachment. What are you wanting or not wanting in this moment? I'm wanting to feel safe. I'm wanting to be right. I'm wanting to not be expendable. I'm just wanting to be cherished and to matter. I'm wanting control. I hate feeling out of control. Thank you for identifying your attachment. In this moment, just for a moment, can you let go? Can you let go of your grasping or pushing away, avoiding? Is the attachment more interesting than freedom? Yes or no? In this moment, are you more interested in your suffering, being the feet suffering? Are you more interested in continuing suffering? Or are you more interested in liberating yourself and being free? Choose. So the minute you say, I am more interested in freedom, it begins to move the energy, move the focus of your energy from the reptilian brain to the frontal lobe. It's shifting the focus where you're perceiving reality from. Let me say that again. Are you more interested in suffering or being free? Being free, the energy then moves from the reptilian brain to the frontal lobe. Oh, good. You want to be free. And so now, inhale through the nose. Stretch the diaphragm down with your inhale. Hold your breath at the top. Hold it as long as you can. Beyond what is comfortable. Keep holding. Push the diaphragm down. And when you're ready, exhale out the nose. Do this 3 more times. 3 more times. Keep holding. Keep holding. Keep holding. Keep holding. Keep holding. Keep holding. Woo! It always makes me shake. Woo! That's what I have to do after that happens. 2 more breaths. Hold, hold, hold. Push the diaphragm down. And 1 more time. Feel the stretch. Yes. Notice how you feel. Close your eyes, go within. Notice what's happening in your body, in your mind, in your heart. This second breath that I've just taught you works on very deep levels in the brain to release density patterns, to literally rewire your brain away from the grooves of the ingrained networking, right, of trauma. And it literally like deletes the files, deletes the files. It really works. So with the second breath, identifying your attachment, this second breath works very well when you can pinpoint a specific event, one of the specific original events of misalignment, abandonment, and betrayal from your early years. So if you're identifying that, for example, when I identify my core attachment, I realize it's safety. Almost every time I get triggered or contract or feel uncomfortable, it is almost always 99.9% of the time because I'm attached to wanting to be safe and therefore control. If I take it to the deepest root core, it's control. So once I identify that, now whenever I get triggered, rather than having to process through, why am I triggered? Like da 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 da, and like psychoanalyze myself. Instead, I get triggered and I immediately just go, in this moment, can I let go of wanting to be safe, wanting control? Breathe and let go. Just like that. And I can free myself. I've been working with this since I was 25, so, it's second nature to me now. And with this second breath from David Ian Rogers and his Heyoka shaman work, this breath really works great when you get down to the core attachment. For me, I'll just say the safety. Okay, and what's underneath that? Control. Okay, what's underneath that? What is the specific moment? Can you name the moment? Yes, for me, it is wanting my father's love. If my father doesn't love me, I'm out of control. And then I need to be safe, right? And then I'm grasping for safety so that I can live my life. Wanting my father's love. If my father loves me, I'm safe. If my father loves me, I'm safe. Right? And that's the bottom line. So what was a moment in my life where a core early moment that I didn't feel safe because of stuff my father was doing? Can I identify a memory, an event, and holding that event? How, if that memory is creating a reaction still in your nervous system, you have a response to it. You have a reaction to that. You get triggered from that memory. That means it still is holding your life force, some of your soul essence, prisoner. The memory is holding a part of your essence prisoner still. So with the second breath, you identify the event and then you ask the question, are you ready to be free from this, like the contractions, the suffering from this event for good? Yes or no? Yes. Yes, I am. Good. Wonderful. And now, is this memory interesting or not? And this is the question, right? Interesting or not? Are you more interested in the suffering or being free? Interesting or not? Not interested. Not interested. Boom. The energy moves to the frontal lobe and you do your 3-4 breaths. Stretching yourself, holding the breath, releasing in and out the nose, right? You are going to get this replay. I'm giving you a lot of information. It's so good, you guys. It's profound. So that is the breath work. And that is one of the most effective ways to let go of attachment and free yourself. It works almost immediately because if you are breathing consciously, you are in the present moment. You cannot breathe and be attached at the same time. You cannot breathe and be attached at the same time. Usually when we get really attached into our density, we hold our breath or we start breathing really shallow, right? Or we start hyperventilating, like out of control breathing. If we are intentionally breathing, present with our breath, we are immediately not in our attachment. Just like that. Yet um, these more kind of structured breathing practices can have even a deeper liberation for us. That's why I wanted to give them to you today. Tool number 4, the final tool I want to give you today for personal ascension, is living at cause, choosing to live at cause versus living at effect or being at effect. When we are at effect, this is the victim consciousness. This is being in the trauma triangle of perpetrator, victim, savior, and you are the victim. Life is coming at you, happening to you, not in a synchronous, graceful way. That's different. That's being in the flow. That's being present. That's engaging fully with life, right? When we're at effect, we're not in present time. We're attached, probably regressed, and it feels like we're out of control of our timeline. We don't have a say. Events are flooding in, and they're happening at us or to us. We feel thin-skinned, like we have to defend. This can cause extreme overwhelm for people. Yet, we can also transform, change that, flip a switch, decide, wait a minute, that's not working for me. I think I'm going to start co-creating my life with the divine. I'm going to create my life. I'm going to be at cause of my life. I'm going to be the cause of my life. Which is more aligned with the truth, because as a soul, when you chose to incarnate, you had a very beautiful dream for yourself that was so beautiful and so strong, and so you got so passionate about that dream that you just had to come in and take on a body to live it out. You can connect to that dream again, and you can continue to express, live, and experience the beauty of it to fulfillment in this life. That original inspiration to incarnate of your soul. Living at effect is forgetting and separating from that original dream. Living at effect is when we get so confused because of all of the input that is chaotic, distorted, disharmonic from outside of us, coming at us. We forget that we can actually be sovereign. We can choose our internal environment and create the world we want to live in, step by step, intention by intention, dream by dream, building block by building block. When we live at cause, it's like we sit back in the driver's seat. We take the steering wheel back from the wounded or denial consciousness that's been driving. Adult consciousness steps in and takes the wheel. And we begin to direct our intention and purpose, our intention, our energy, towards what is healthy, what is balanced, what is connected, what is loving, what feels good and exciting and creative. When we are at cause in our lives, We are navigating from a connected place with our original soul essence. We are more embodying of our soul essence, our spiritual nature, guided by higher self. That link is absolutely, that channel is clear and clean and flowing and streaming. Energy and information and guidance all the time. We close that when we are attached, when we are in our density pattern and spinning in the trauma drama looping. I would just say now to close that on this path of personal ascension, meaning personal becoming more and more whole, the journey of becoming more and more whole in our true nature, discovering what it is to be a real human being, opening into our true capacity. What are we really capable of as human beings? It's just mind-blowing what we're actually designed, our divine human being blueprint, what we're designed for. Wow. So on this journey of ascension, personal ascension, every single experience is relevant and valuable. All the contractions, all the challenges, the moments that we experience, the separation and divide, these moments are profoundly valuable in the third density, because third density is about the polarity, and the split consciousness is a part of third density. It helps us to catalyze into more unity, into more integration of our parts. If we don't experience what we're not, we will not consciously choose who we are. We won't move towards the truth. Oftentimes, it's experiencing hard things that catalyzes us into where we really want to be. So it's all relevant and it's all valuable. And the negative and positive, the contraction, the expansion, the ebb and the flow, the inhale and the exhale. When we come into a graceful acceptance of all that we are, we see it all as the value for it that it holds for us to grow and keep expanding. Then we come into like a peaceful contentment and the middle way. The middle way, where we aren't at one extreme or the other. We aren't pushing or pulling, grasping for or pushing away. We are in a flow. And more we can find and center ourselves on that middle way, where we're able to live in our witness, whole adult consciousness or higher self consciousness, and be able to observe things or witness things as they are without a need to throw a veil in front of it to be safe, throw a veil in front of it to avoid being rejected. We can literally interface intimately with life, with others, willingly, and behave differently from how we used to. One way that I behave differently now than how I used to is I used to avoid confrontation like the plague. Anytime there was a conflict or a confrontation energy, or even my idea that there could be, I would turn and go the other way. I could not, I believed that I was too fragile to have a voice around my needs. and I would just be bowled over by somebody's stronger energy. I had all these stories that really ran me. And today, when there is a possible conflict, instead I get curious. I notice my mind wants to get interested in the trauma drama and wants to like create the stories and assumptions and expectations and fears. And I say, oh, isn't that interesting? There's my mind doing that. That's what my mind does. Yet, in this present moment, I'm just going to just sit in meditation for a little bit and just hold the situation in my heart, hold the person in my heart, and just breathe and just open and feel. What am I wanting or not wanting in this moment with this person, with this situation? What am I curious about? What questions do I have? Can I be more honest with myself or them? Can I find out more information? Am I confused and that's why I'm afraid? All I need is a little bit more information, and then I can land and feel more clear, right? So that has really changed in my life. And that doesn't run me anymore. It still arises, but I work with it differently than I did in my past. So the tools that I offered you today, how to identify attachments. When you're uncomfortable, it means you're attached. What are attachments? What are you grasping for or rejecting, wanting or not wanting? It's the grasping or rejecting that creates the suffering. Can you let go of your attachments in a moment and be free? Letting go is a muscle that you build. Letting go is a choice, not a process. Can you let go just for a moment? You're poking holes in the density layer around you and letting the light in every time you let go. Practicing honesty with yourself and others. When you can choose honesty over avoidance or denial, that is a rich and integrous life. And it will take you into more intimacy. Honesty always elicits more intimacy, real intimacy that is profoundly fulfilling and meets core needs. Honesty also teaches us about discernment, being able to perceive reality clearly, knowing when somebody is available to really meet you and be intimate with you in a fulfilling way, and when they don't have the capacity for that and they are in their density pattern and playing a role and wanting to pull you into their drama. Oh, I see what's happening here. I do not play those games anymore. Therefore, blessings on your journey. I know what true intimacy feels like, and that's what I want in my life. And that's what I'm going to move towards. Honesty. Living at cause versus living at effect. Being the cause of your life. So these are the core lessons from my teachers, which I have embodied in myself and teach to my students. They have formed me, molded me since my 20s, and they are timeless. They're timeless wisdom. They're found in all the ancient traditions and mystical paths. You will find this in the Tao, Veda Vedanta, Buddhism, mystical Christianity, the teachings of Jesus. This is where it's at. It's beautiful. And it really is a blessing to have spent this time with you and to have offered this to you today in honor of my teachers, Larry, Karen, Deborah, and Jamie. So with that, I am available going forward if you would like a private session with me to look at attachments, to experience letting go of attachments and coaching around these processes with the breathing. You also all know that I'm available for channeling and other kinds of sessions, but I'm also excited about this work. Please go to Amazon if you don't have my book. Buy my book, Planetary Ascension. It's amazing, and it is a catalyst for living in the present moment and where we are heading as a planet into fourth density planetary universal love. Until we meet again, be sovereign, be free, be profoundly in love with yourself, and choose honesty and therefore intimacy. Namaste. Thank you and aloha. Mwah.